3 races in 8 days means 3 videos in 8 days. The track layout, conditions, and on-track action were all leagues ahead of the first SLC round, full of drama from the first gate drop to that final lap of the 450 main. Heat race Mookie was so captivating, I wasn't even paying attention to where my fantasy riders were. Let's hope SLC3 delivers the same level of racing, but I could certainly use better fantasy results. Hello, my name is Donnie. Welcome back to RotoX Fantasy, where I will review fantasy results of the last round SLC2, and we will look ahead to SLC3 on Sunday, June 7th. SLC2 saw a small uptick in players from SLC1. In any given week before the COVID lockdown, these would be fantastic numbers to see. But after losing thousands of players last round, this is barely a band-aid on the situation. We picked up 416 lineups and 236 championship players, 14 of which signed up for the very first time with just 6 rounds to go. After Jalik Swoll took Jordan Smith's all-star role, that left 15 available picks, of which 8 of them maxed out with that perfect 26. Every 250 rider except 2 managed to score double points, much to Jerry and Pierce Brown's owner's dismay, and 8 out of the 14 450 riders scored at least 26 points. The perfect score this weekend was a low one, 276 straight up, or 306 if you nailed both FFLs, which, again, you didn't. 55 people picked Colt Nicholls to lead the 250s, and less than 20 picked Zach Osborne. Not a kind week to the FFL gamblers. The median championship league score was 192, meaning if you scored at least 193 points, you did better than the majority of paid players. Let me know in the comments if you were one of those in the top half of the field. It was a gentle week for team burners at SLC2. Alex Ray at 21% pick trend made up almost 1/3 of all of the 0 picks. All-star Enzo Lopes failed to make the main after separating his shoulder in this heat race, but according to his Instagram post, it appears Enzo is planning on lining up for SLC3. The no excuse list is much lighter than normal, but still baffling. Chris Blows and John Short are 250 riders. They are riding the 250s on the East Coast. They were picked in the 450 class, despite neither of them racing the 450 class in literally months. Over 200 had the guts to start AC and then apparently turned their phones off until Gates drops and left him on the roster. I contemplated leaving him off since there's a good excuse, but Nick Gaines was a very, very last-minute scratch. We reported on it after Steve Mathis noticed on Instagram post just minutes before the first gate drop. Friendly reminder to follow us on Instagram and Twitter for up-to-the-minute injury updates. Never a bad idea to check even just 5 minutes before gates drop. Despite dodging DNFs, I only managed to outscore last week's race by 12 points, bringing home 207, with Brees and Baggett somehow managing to both end up just 1 spot out of double points. I knew Brees had the altitude issues. I know he struggled at SLC1, but all I needed him to do was to make the main, which I had confidence in, and I needed him to ride around to outlast literally any single DNF, and that unfortunately was too much to ask. Let's leave Wednesday in the past and fast forward and look ahead to Sunday's SLC3 round. As always, I have 5 riders' stats to know before picking, who you should be targeting for those FFLs, all-star updates, race day schedule, a bit of weather, and of course, what my way too early starting 8 looks like. Let's talk riders for SLC3. Starting with your 250 All-Star, the obvious choice could very well be McElrath or Sexton, whichever you did not pick last, but Sugar Shane is now a very scary 0 handicap. I know a lot of you guys don't like that. And Sexton had almost a 50% pick trend last race, meaning many of you will be locked out of him. If you're looking elsewhere, look at Jeremy Martin on that number 6 machine. J-Mart has been top 4 every round but 1. You guys remember when someone kicked a tough block right into the center of the track and Martin landed directly on it? Yeah, I had him. How could I forget? Jeremy is a bona fide top 5 rider and has the most generous handicap of the top guys.
Just a little note while I'm editing this video. It appears that Jeremy Martin may not be racing this weekend. Word on the street is that if he does one more race, he'll point out, and he doesn't want to point out, so he's headed home. Check Twitter if you want the firestorm that is all of that drama. In that case, I would go with McElrath or Sexton, whichever one you did not pick last week. I don't feel confident in any of the other guys to be as sure of a thing as those two are. Even if McElrath ends up second, you still get 23 points. I think worst case scenario, third, you still get 21. I think that's better than rolling the dice on Lopes' potential injury. Marchbanks at a 2, Shimoda at an 8. I would just stick to the main 2.
Staying with the 250 class, Zombie Chris Blows is a fantastic value even with his handicap shrinking to a 2. I was a bit worried and stayed away from him in those first 2 rounds about maybe his injuries holding him back, but he did not earn the nickname Zombie Blows easily. Since the start of 2019, Blows has made every main he has attempted to and has 6 top 10s and an average finish in the top 10 on a 250 and non-showdown rounds. The 250 is a pretty stacked here, so I don't expect him to flirt with the top 5, but he should reliably put you into the 30s. Moving on to the 450s, let's talk All-Stars. Webb and Tomac have pulled ahead in SLC1, and they both have a 1. That's no good. Roxon looks shaky, and Barcia seems to be missing his trademark intensity, but there's only one guy that's been plugging along under the radar, just sweeping up points. I'm talking about Jason Anderson. JA21 has 3 consecutive 4th place finishes. Many were worried about his altitude sickness, but Jason looks to be unfazed. Don't forget, his first career win ever came here back in 2013. Sadly, I picked him last race, so I will be forced to look elsewhere, but 69% of you can pick him this week, and you should. Where there are plenty of value in the 250s for double points and huge scores, the 450s have been way harder to find those good scores. Last week, literally 50% of last week's double point eligible picks managed to score double points, so we are looking to navigate a minefield here. How about 2 guys to stay away from? The first one is Chad Reed. Wednesday, a graphic during the race reminded me that it was in fact 2008 when he last won a Supercross title. That really hit me in the gut and made me realize just how old I am, and with that, just how old he is. 12 years later, and Reedy is not having that sort of farewell any of us were hoping for. A 7 handicap, Reed has been top 17 just 3 times this season, his last 3 races on the Honda. As he continues to learn the KTM, I'm going to avoid him unless his handicap gets more generous. Even if he somehow manages to match his best season finish of 13th, that would only score you 34, which are great points, but not exactly the kind of ceiling I'm looking for this late into the season, especially with such a low floor. I would not be surprised to see Reedy miss a main before this season is over. Another guy to avoid, sadly, is the Bear. Tyler Bowers has his highest handicap of the season with a 9, and there is tons of value here, but his last 3 races have been very rough for number 43 with 2 21st and a 20th. He's one of the guys, along with main event staple Ryan Brees, who has really struggled with the altitude sickness. I'm personally hoping his handicap continues to balloon, and once he adapts to the altitude and figures it all out, he should have huge potential for a 40-plus point race before the end of the season. As the season winds down, expect to see more FFL picks with people wanting to make up points any way they can. Wednesday saw Colt Nicholls take his first FFL of the season in just his 2nd start, but McElrath is still the likely pick here. This week, the start is considerably shorter, so it may be Marchbanks or Sexton's chance to steal one of them from the star bikes. In the 450s, Osborne increases his FFL count to 4, tailing only Kenny by 2. Roxon started off so hot this season, but has been shut out for 3 consecutive rounds. His peculiar gate pick Wednesday left he and teammate Justin Brayton in dead last midway through the first turn. My way too early starting 8 will be led by reigning champion Chase Sexton anchoring my 250 squad, hoping the shorter start will allow him to maybe squeeze in front of the star bikes off the start. Speaking of Star Yamaha, I'm taking Colt Nicholls at a -2. Negative handicaps are always scary, but you gotta take a guy that can win races when the chance arises. Zombie Chris Blows as a mid-safer pick, and Pierce Brown at a -1 to round out my 250 squad that I hope all 4 of them can finish in the top 7 or 8. My 450 team has Mookie Fever, and the only cure is more Malcolm. Malcolm's 8 handicap with another technical-looking layout should pay dividends here. I am on Davalos' good weeks, so I'll be taking Party Marty at a 2. The riskier pick of my early roster, Kyle Cunningham at an 8. He looks to be at his season's best form here in SLC, and rounding out that team will be Vince Freezy. I think the shorter start helps him get a jump and hopefully keeps him out of that early race trouble he's been having lately. Sunday's weather in SLC is not promising. It's going to be cool, which should help riders stay on the track, but it's also very well be somewhere between wet and a total mutter. If this happens, remember these guys like Justin Barcia, Aaron Plessinger, even Chad Reed Given that they are notoriously strong and slop should get a bump in value. However, be wary of those true privateers and small team guys who will not have the resources or manpower to patch up anything that could go wrong before the main event. As of Friday afternoon, it looks like the majority of the rain will fall well before gates drop, so hopefully Dirtworks has enough guys on hand to pack and seal that track well in advance to keep it fresh for the show. An early evening start time for the East Coast, 5 p.m. 2 Pacific. Those of you with a Gold Pass can check out the last session of qualifying starting at 2:30 Eastern, 11:30 Pacific, and watch Twitter and Instagram for your fantasy cheat sheets that should drop about an hour before the gates do. Thank you, as always, for watching our third video in a week. This is a completely privateer show, and it means a lot just to see each and every one of your names in the comment section or mentioning on Twitter. Be sure to like the video and drop a follow if it's your first time sitting through, and as always, check the Twitter feed and Instagram stories for pre-race injury and track reports, and pop in during the races for commentary, memes, and observations. My name is Donnie. Thank you for watching Roto X Fantasy. May your chiz chiz this weekend. Your Jerry's not always fucking Jerry. Godspeed. Good picking. Take care, guys.